Hello there, Rosewood Gaming here. Sorry it's been a while since I last posted a video. Been sick with a cold, or I forget what they said it was. So my voice has been a bit turned off lately since I can't really speak that loud. Today I am going to be doing a deck profile of my Floowandereeze deck. It's a budget build, so it might not be as good as most other Floowandereeze players, but I have had decent success with it at my locals. So I'm hoping you enjoy this profile. If I pause a bit, it's just because my throat's a bit hoarse, and I'm hoping that we can try to reach 100 subscribers at least by the end of the year, as I'll try to host a special event for you guys if we reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year. Without further ado, let's get into the profile. Starting off, I play 2 copies of M-Pen. This is the main monster of the deck that you want to tribute summon, as it's a floodgate for special summon monsters as they'll lose their effects. But it can also search any flu, spell, or trap card, which is very good, since there are actually quite a few good options. Next, I play 3 copies of Eaglin. Eaglin can not only search M-Pen, but any level 7 or higher winged beast monster in the game, which helps a lot as there are a few options that are pretty decent. And I'm actually running a few tech options that are good in my side deck, which you'll see later on in the video. I then play 3 copies of Robina. It can literally search any level 4 lower winged beast monster in the game, which is pretty much the entire flu archetype. And it's just basically the main card you want to see. Robina and Eaglin basically make it so you have effectively 8 copies of M-Pen, and essentially 8 additional copies of any spell or trap that has Floowandereeze in the name. I then play a copy of Stree to banish cards from the graveyard, which can help keep Dimension Shifter online. It can also be used to remove cards from the opponent's graveyard that might be annoying, such as Fallen of Albaz, or Salaman Great Rage, or Roar, or any other card that might just be an annoyance later on. I then play 1 copy of Toucan, as I can use it to recover my banished M-Pen, or Dreaming Town, or any banished Floowandereeze card. Had to pause the camera for a minute, so I apologize if I repeated that line. I then play a copy of Avion. It's a searchable Omni-Negate in this deck, thanks to Eaglin. And with a card I added in as a tech option, it can actually be used multiple times in a turn, depending on when you time that tech option. I then play a copy of Ryza to remove cards from the field and graveyard that might be annoying to the deck, such as there can be only one, or like Baguska maybe. I don't know if it works against Baguska, so someone please correct me in the comments below. I then play 3 copies of Perfection. It can search any Simorgh spell or trap, which you'll understand why later on in the video. But it is also a way to chain block the initial summon of Robina or Eaglin, depending on what you open with, which can effectively help you avoid an Ash. Lastly, for the monsters, I play 3 copies of Shifter, which is essentially an FTK against most decks, as most decks do not want their cards getting banished. I think it is most effective against older decks, as it's not that good against Ritual Beast, but I believe it does turn off Yubel and Tenpai and Snake Eyes for a turn. Into the spell cards, I start off with 3 copies of Duality. It lets me dig 3 cards deep into my deck, which helps with consistency as well as seeing Robina as soon as I can. I also play a single copy of Prosperity. This is mainly due to the fact that it recently got limited, and if not for that, I would have been playing 3, but in its place, I added in a few tech cards to my deck. I then play a copy of Terraforming to search the field spells you'll play in the deck, as searching your field spells can really help with getting your play started, as well as having more options during the opponent's turn. I then play a single copy of Arrival Rivals. This is one of the 2 tech cards I added to the deck, as if you have something like Apex Avian or Ryza in your hand during the battle phase, and you just need a quick burst damage of like 2,000 or more, you can quickly summon the monster during the battle phase and potentially swing for game. Or if it's during your opponent's turn, just tribute summon a Ryza and remove 2 cards from their field. I then play a copy of Called by the Grave. This is more so to deal with Effect Veiler or Ghost Ogre, as those 2 cards are a bit annoying for this deck. I then play 3 copies of Advent. It's basically additional copies of Robina or Eaglin, depending on what I need. The only real downside is that it can only search Floowandereeze monsters or the Floowandereeze field spell, Magnificent Map, but at least you gain 500 life points, which can come up during time. I then play 3 copies of Cowrie. It's essentially 3 more copies of Advent, but the main difference is that it can search any winged beast in the game, but it has to have the same level as the banished monster. Sorry, tributed monster. I then play 1 copy of Unexplored Winds, more so as a way to tribute annoying monsters or spell or traps that my opponent might control, such as Skill Drain, There Can Be Only One, Secret Village. Well, I guess if they have Village, I can't play this card, but you know what I'm saying. It can just tribute annoying floodgates that the opponent controls. I then play 1 copy of Alborz. This is one of the search targets for Simorgh of Perfection, as it's essentially another copy of Map, since it gives you another normal summon if you reveal a level 5 or higher winged beast monster to do so for 1 less tribute. Speaking of Map, the last of the spells we play in the deck are 3 copies of Map. It's just a way to get your play started without using your initial normal summon, and can also help you get plays done during the opponent's turn if you don't have Dreaming Town. For the trap cards, I don't play many, but there are 4 very good one-of trap cards I'm running in this deck. The first is Dreaming Town, for the obvious reason that it gets your Floowandereeze plays started during your opponent's turn, and it's the primary card you're going to search with M-Pen. I then play a copy of Rivalry, since every monster we're going to summon is a winged beast monster. Having a way to shut down your opponent's extra deck, since most of the extra deck cards people play are not of the same type as their deck, it effectively gives you another way to stun them out of the game. I then play a single copy of Sky Battle. It makes it so any winged beast monster you control cannot be targeted by their card effects, nor for their attacks, except for the winged beast monster with the highest attack. However, the secondary effect on this card doesn't really apply, since you need 2 level 7 or higher Simorgh monsters with different attributes to perform it, but it would deal your opponent 500 burn damage for any card you return from the field to the hand. Lastly, for the traps, I play 1 copy of Scary Sea. A lot of Floowandereeze players actually don't play this card, but I play it specifically because it is effectively Solemn Judgment, tied with a single turn Vanity's Emptiness, which effectively locks your opponent out of the extra deck for an entire turn, while removing a card from the extra deck that they would have summoned. I like to use this when I see SP Little Knight or Phantom of Yubel, as getting rid of Phantom or SP is just very good and helpful for this deck. For the extra deck, you're not really summoning at all from it, and are only using it for the Pot of Prosperity. So you could throw whatever in. I personally just threw in some of my extra Nightmares just because I have a lot of them extra, but I could easily replace them with any other card. For the side deck, this is where you'll see a lot of the tech options I am running. But some of them are cards you would normally see in the main deck for a Floowandereeze player, such as DD Crow. It's basically a searchable bestial for Floowandereeze, and it's a bit more generic, actually, since it can get rid of any card from the graveyard, not just a light or dark monster. The first of many tech cards in my side deck is Dark Samorg. I can easily search it off of Eaglin and just have a way to effectively turn off any trap-based deck with little to no issue, which comes in clutch a lot, especially if you're seeing Paleo, Trap Tricks, or Labyrinth. The next tech option I'm running is Acelia Piscu. Again, it's very searchable in this deck, as it's a level 10 Winged Beast monster. And I don't remember how exactly, but I believe there's an FTK you can do with Acelia Piscu in this deck, but I could be wrong there. The next tech option I'm running is Raska, as it's a way to easily rip cards out of your opponent's hand, which can then basically hinder their plays, either by removing hand traps or important play starters from their hand before they get to use them. It's not good in every matchup, though, as if you get rid of cards that want to be sent to the graveyard, such as Snake Eyes, you effectively just help your opponent go plus an advantage. I then play a single copy of Harpy Dancer. It's a searchable tech option in this deck and allows you to use Featherstorm from your hand, as it is a Harpy monster. You can also target one wind monster you control, return it to the hand, then normal summon another wind monster, which is very nice since you can effectively use it to restart your Floowandereeze plays, or I believe, I don't remember what the card is, but there's another Wind-Winged Beast monster you can summon off of it. If someone wants to let me know in the comments below. I then play a single copy of Samorg of Darkness. It's basically another Apex Avian, but it only negates spell or trap cards. But that can sometimes be more useful than Ryza or the extra copy of Samorg, as it's just something you can throw in and have more negations for your overall end board. It also has a very decent 2,900 attack points, which means it can hit very hard and is actually probably the monster with the most amount of attack points in the deck. For back row removal, I run one copy each of Duster and Repulsion. Duster destroys all spell or traps your opponent controls, and can be searched off of Featherstorm if a face-down Featherstorm is destroyed. And Repulsion can be searched off of Perfection, and by revealing a Winged Beast monster from your hand, you can reduce the level of all monsters in your hand by 1 for the rest of the turn by banishing Repulsion from the graveyard. Or when you activate it, you can discard a Winged Beast monster to return all spell or traps your opponent controls back to their hand. It's very good against pendulum strategies, especially, as the odds of them having a card they can use in response is very low. I then play 3 copies of Book of Moon. I run this in the side deck for the same reason as Advent and Cowrie in the main deck, as a way to protect Rabina or Eaglin from targeting effects such as Imperm and Veiler. I then run 3 copies of Featherstorm. I personally prefer to run this in the side deck, as if your opponent thinks you're not running it, they'll get a bit greedy during game 2. Then you can activate this card and essentially tell them to screw off without them having a way to deal with it. I also run 3 because if I draw it as I search for the Harpy Dancer, I just have to summon the Dancer, then activate this from my hand, and then they can't even remove it from the board. Lastly, I run 1 copy of Anti-Spell Fragrance. This card pairs very nicely with Dark Samorg, as while Samorg prevents your opponent from setting cards face down, Anti-Spell would force your opponent to have to set spell cards face down, but because they can't set cards face down, you essentially turn off every Pendulum deck and every deck that focuses primarily on spell or trap cards, meaning Sky Striker, Paleo, Labyrinth, Trap Tricks, Crystal Beast, Snake Eyes. All those decks can't work anymore. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and again, I apologize for the hoarseness in my voice. I've just been sick and hoping to get better soon. Again, if we reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year, I'll try to do something special for you guys, by which I'll host a poll on my gaming Twitter to see what you guys would prefer. I'll try to leave a link to that Twitter in the thread below in case you want to give me a follow. Until next time,